good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Relika Roach, and welcome to the Live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. At this time, I invite the Minister of Finance and Acting Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Artwell Edion, to address you.
Good morning, Honorable Council of Ministers, the media, the viewing and listening audience. I'd first like to say that we are now facing unprecedented times. When I'm a history buff, and when I look at history, I think this is the first pandemic that I am facing of my generation. I empathize with countries like Italy and Spain that are seeing vast amounts of increases in not just cases, but also deaths. I also empathize with island countries, island nations like ourselves, small island countries like ourselves in the Caribbean that face limited capacity, limited resources, but I say that we will get through this. I would also like to start to thank my staff, the Ministry of Finance, and also the Ministry of Education, for all the efforts they've been putting in the last few weeks. We are on a skeleton staff. Most of the staff are at home, but we still need to work. We still need to get things done, and I appreciate the staff that are coming in that are essential on getting the engine and keeping the engine moving. We, as I know, the main concern for the Ministry of Finance at least is pertaining to the economic issue. What are we going to do? What are the plans? I believe now is the perfect opportunity for us to come together as a kingdom, come together with the Netherlands, show that now is the time to work together. We have been in constant communication with my counterparts, also via the Honorable Prime Minister. We've also been in contact with the Prime Minister of Curaçao and Aruba, and we're all facing this together, and we're all trying to see how we can unite to come through together, including the Netherlands. Obviously, we won't be able to do it without them. We have been in constant contact also with the CFTA pertaining to financial support. What I can say is this: in addition to government, we have been in contact with the different entities, different companies on the island in terms of relief. One entity or company is GEBE, which already have stated their way of helping the population with their reduction in their fees. To note also, they are also on a monthly basis, will be looking at their position to see if they can go even further lower in terms of utility bills without forcing the company obviously into bankruptcy or without having to lay off their own employees. That is also counterproductive. We've had cooperation from the banks via the Bankers Association, who are also given grace periods or reliefs in terms of payments, deferring payments for at least 3 to 6 months for residential and for businesses. We've also gotten information from UTS and Telem, which some I still have to review, but they are also given relief packages in terms of data, increased data, new packages for the citizens of St. Martin. We've also spoken to the car dealerships that have lease agreements, and together they have also given a combined relief, and some on a case-by-case basis, of 2 months deferred payments. We've also spoken with NRPB. We're in close contact via the Prime Minister also on working together on packages for small, medium enterprises. We're also looking at extending the program that we had after the hurricane for the training program. Government is also looking at ways on tax incentives, but we can't again do this without possibly changing legislation. The idea for government is that we look at the persons that have lost their job, unemployed currently, at the risk of losing their jobs, to give them a financial injection. We're also looking at food vouchers. We are working again closely with the Netherlands. This Friday, there will be at Amer this discussion and decision on how this support will be distributed. The Netherlands wants to have a unified approach and a fair approach through the other islands, the Curaçao, Aruba, and St. Martin, on the way the money is distributed. So we are also waiting to hear how this will be done. We have indicated the preliminary figures that we believe that we need to sustain the country, sustain government, and also help those most in need in society, not only now, but those to come. Again, I would like to say thank you to my staff. They have been putting in 12-hour shifts every day for the last 2 weeks. I don't want to go without thanking them. I would also like to thank the staff of ICT, who are also getting us from going from physical to online, getting all the employees who want to work from home to be able to work at home. I'd like to thank CoM that are here every week, making sure we are able to communicate to the public via press briefings, via video graphics online. Everything that you see produced online comes from people that are coming, also putting leaving their homes to come to work so that you could have information and you could feel comfortable and safe at home. I'd also like to give a shout out to those in the community that are helping to relieve our population with fear and also give hope and not only despair. Over the weekend, I saw, this skeleton from Red Eye Crew. They had parties online. Remember, they had almost 2,000 views, I believe. I've seen the Johnny Cakers give a course in making Johnny cakes. I've seen Pilates instructors give Pilates instruction. Even at a time of crisis, I believe we have individuals that are showing that times are going to change, and in time of crisis, we still can produce hope. We still can show hope, and it was very comforting to see that we are finding new and creative ways to bring this communication to our public and inspiring them. I'm hoping to see this continue. I'm also going to ask the parents who are home with their kids, with their children, to take time with your children. We not only depend on teachers now, because they are also facing the same situations as you, but spend time with your kids. Go on YouTube, go on Khan Academy. The school boards were also given a number of websites and links and apps that you are now also able to communicate to your children, learn with them, teach them. Amazon, I see now, also is giving free audio service and free book streaming services for all children. Use this time now. Support us, support the teachers also, to as we get over this, that your kids could get back into the mix of things without missing a beat. Again, I would like to say that the AOC is doing their part in trying to communicate the importance of social distancing and staying at home. I know it's a temporary pain, it's a temporary discomfort, but the temporary discomfort and pain will be for long-term benefits. We see the destruction that is happening with the war that we are facing, because this, in my opinion, is a war. It's not a war of guns and nuclear bombs. It's a war of almost a biochemical war, but of a virus. To defeat this, to win this war, we have to follow rules. And again, I know it's inconvenient. I know we want to go down the road and have fun as we usually do, but government can't do this alone. We need the people, right, to also do their part. So I'm asking you again to bear with us, deal with the temporary discomfort for the long-term benefits. And that'll be all today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Minister Edion, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Egbert Duran, to address you.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to my colleague ministers, members of the media, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin. Following decisions by the EOC on Sunday, March 22nd, I have been in close consultation with the management of the police force and the public prosecutor's office. I hereby wish to announce that the measures taken by the EOC will be strictly enforced according to the transaction list related to the COVID-19 measures, which was previously published. The police instructions will include heightened visibility of the police at vital infrastructure, businesses, and homes. If you are in the vicinity of these establishments or homes, you can be requested to identify yourself and be removed effective immediately. All persons must be in possession of identification, and non-compliance will lead to fines. Businesses that do not comply with the opening hours of the EOC will be closed, and clients will be instructed to leave immediately. A report will be made for the Ministry of TIAT, and the owner will be fined for non-compliance. No more than 20 persons are allowed in larger grocery stores, and no more than 10 in smaller grocery stores. A distance of 1.5 to 2 meters, 4 feet to 6 feet, is to be maintained when waiting for service. Group gatherings are strictly prohibited. Group gatherings more than 5 persons on a public road in the vicinity of businesses. This includes restaurants, bars, gas stations, barbecues, etc., and other places are strictly prohibited and will be immediately dispersed. Non-compliance can lead to fine and arrest. It is also advised to avoid social gatherings at homes. Beaches will remain open, however, no beach vending or businesses are allowed to operate. Social gatherings of more than 5 people is strictly prohibited and will be immediately dispersed as well at the beach also. It is not the intention under given circumstances to use force. However, if and when necessary, the police will not hesitate to apply use of force to maintain public order and safety. I would also like to announce the adjusted justice service in regards to social distancing. The following departments of the ministry will be operating at a reduced staff capacity and will be handling only emergencies from the workplace as of Monday, March 23rd, which was Monday gone until April 6, 2020. KPSM, no walk-ins at the police station for non-emergencies, and questions you can call 54-22222. For filing of reports, you can call the same number and also make an appointment in order to file a report. Please have the following details at hand before calling the station in order for us to provide efficient and effective services. Your name, date of birth, place of birth, address, phone number, and a short summary of what took place. Border control, following the COVID-19 protocol, we will submit all passengers to a questionnaire and will issue information regarding self-isolation measures. Appointments must be made for immigration services, including reporting. This can also be done at the same number 5422222, extension 307. The number of call takers are increased in order to provide extra services when calling. Please give your correct telephone number in the event that the police need to follow up or the immigration officer. You can call 911 for emergency only. COVID protocols are in place to dispatch to a dispatch center. Please comply with the dispatcher. COVID-19 protocols are in place for the patrols also. Please comply with the instructions given by the officers. This can include a request to wear a mask and maintain safety distance. As for the customs of St. Martin, we'll have 100% controls on goods from risk countries, 100% controls on air passengers, and 100% control on baggage, and also 100% control on goods. Code of guardianship, no walk-ins, only open for emergencies through appointment made via 5424110. In the case of emergencies, you can always call 520-6396. In relations to the SGIB, so the probation office, no walk-ins, only open for emergencies via appointments made online or by telephone, 526-4334. In regards to the public prosecutor's office, no walk-ins. Open every day from 9 to 12 with the exception of Wednesday from 1 to 5. Contact via telephone 54-222-43 or online via paquet.stmartin@omcarib.org. In regards to the immigration office will be closed until further notice. For any information needed, please contact 5426-007. In regards to the prison and the house of detention, no visitation is allowed, as I mentioned last week. Video calling has been set up for family members and lawyers. You can contact the prison via 54-20691 for more details in regards to appointments that can be made. Health for justice personnel. Physically, the approach of all justice workers will entail physical distancing, at least 1.5 to 2 meters, as I mentioned, to ensure safety for all. I would also be issuing guidelines for operators and users of public transportation. And also the numbers that I just mentioned would also be published and dispatched via DCOM to all the relevant media houses. I would like to say St. Martin is going through some trying times, and we see already that some people are using this opportunity to take advantage of the situation in regards to crime. And I would like to draw reference to the fact that we see a lot of senseless acts of violence taking place over the last couple of days. I would like to urge the population to remain calm. Although we are going through some trying times, the government, we are working diligently on finding solutions. The Prime Minister, along with the EOC, my colleague Minister of Finance, the Minister of Economic Affairs as well, in looking for the best interests of our people. I would like to thank all the justice staff for all their hard work and dedication during these trying times. And I would also like to say, God bless the people of St. Martin. I look forward to any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing. Based on the adaptation of the social distancing, the Council of Ministers press briefing will be divided into 2 segments. We now move on to the question and answer session. We will only have 2 rounds of questions for this segment. Stephen Cyrillian of PJ82 Radio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Ministers, good morning. My question is for the Minister of Finance. You spoke of various meetings that have already taken place with the different entities, including UTS, TELEM, GEB, and of course, the Bankers Association. Have you met with the St. Martin Housing Development Foundation, taking into consideration the situation as is, and one can only expect more persons to be affected by all that? And if you have, what are they said in terms of rent payment?
Good morning, Mr. Cyrillian. Thank you for your question. I have personally not met with them, nor my staff, but I believe maybe the Minister of Rummy has. In addition to the entities that I've mentioned, I've also met with the Chamber. I've met with a representative from SHTA. I've also met with individual business owners that represent a large majority of the businesses on the island. No, I haven't met the Housing Foundation, and I believe that will be a question, I guess, for the Ministry of Rummy.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Dimitri Whitfield of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Hi, so good morning to the people of St. Martin and the Council of Ministers. My first question is to Finance Minister Irion. I'm just asking about an update on the proposed financial package, economic stimulus for businesses and persons. How is that going along, and what's the latest?
Like I mentioned in my opening statements, that we are still working on this, but now we are also heavily dependent on what the Netherlands is going to do. How much are they willing to support? They have already indicated, like I mentioned, that they want to have a unified approach on how they deal with Curaçao, St. Martin, and Aruba in terms of financing. We have also used the information from Central Bank in addition to ours. And our approach, though, as a government is to help those that are unemployed, those that have lost their jobs, those that are at risk of losing their jobs. to find some way to give them some type of financial supplement. Also, we are also looking at a similar program that we had after the hurricane in terms of food vouchers. The idea is if we could have all your monthly expenses deferred or reduced, and we then provide a stimulus in terms of some sort of financial aid, that then you would have more disposable income for yourself. But I also like to say to the people of St. Martin, as we roll this out, it's not a time to go on Amazon and buy your favorite sneaker for running. It's not a time to go and buy 4 or 5 PlayStation games. This is a time that we have to use our resources wisely. I've also discussed with the PM and the CoM on certain measures that might have to be taken to make sure that we do use our resources wisely. Also, I've gotten hundreds of messages via Facebook, WhatsApp, email pertaining to what every other country is doing. Someone sent me a package from Denmark, but Denmark also has almost 100% tax. So they have 25% tax on I believe VAT. So it's easy to just compare what other countries are doing, but they also have very different tax systems than us. They also have a different social net than us. They also have a larger population than us. But what I will say is that the government of St. Martin is for sure looking at making sure that our people are safe, have enough to make it through these 3 months. And we are hoping to have a final answer, hopefully by Friday. In addition to that, I know it's not pertaining exactly to your question, but the government is also taking this time of the crisis to also focus on areas that we can improve on. Yes, we have a crisis situation, but in the meantime, the Ministry of Finance, with the support of ICT, we are now looking as much as possible to get services online during this time. We are also proceeding with a project that I started before the crisis, with getting all advices to be done digitally. I know every other ministry is also looking at ways of going more digital. I'm also doubling down on my request of the central bank to expedite the online banking law, online e-payment law, that would make it possible for us to do and receive money via online payments. I'm also doubling down and imploring the central bank to continue to push the idea of the Dutch guilder digital currency. I think these are times that prove that if we had these things in place already, we would have had less of an economic impact. And I believe now that, yes, we are in a crisis, we should be looking more at these things. So I'll be having these discussions again with the central bank on expediting the concept idea of the Dutch guilder digital currency and expediting our laws so we'll be able to have more financial tech businesses and support our local entrepreneurs with their online endeavors.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and the ministers that are present here today. Question to the Minister of Justice. Minister of Justice, what are the cooperation you have with the French side? Over past days, there are some activities where people are coming over and going over. Is there any agreement to close the border, have surveillance, have police present at these borders for safety?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your question. In regards to the relationship with the French side, there's always been a relationship with the French side where law enforcement is concerned. The ESF5, which consists of the chief of police and along with his team, they have regular meetings with the French counterparts. There's no agreement to block any borders. And I'm sure the PM can divulge more on that from an EOC perspective on the different agreements besides law enforcement. But there's no agreement to block any border, and there has always been a continued relationship between the Dutch and the French counterparts in relations to judicial affairs and public order.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Wendell Moore of Seymour Journal, you have the floor.
I have a question for the Minister of Finance, and it's in regards to how you plan to identify those folks who qualify for any type of assistance or aid who might have lost their jobs. And an additional question in regards to that, to those persons who own businesses, are there going to be any attached conditions to them, maybe keeping on their employees as one of the conditions within which they would be able to qualify for this money?
Thank you for your question. As you can imagine, this is a grand undertaking, and I will say that my initial task is getting the money. Right now, I'm focused on getting the money. I'm focused on deciding where this money will be distributed, and I believe the details will come with the support of the Prime Minister, the EOC, and all other ministers and the rest of the ministry. I think the most important thing for me, and that has been my task for the last week, is making sure that we are able to provide relief for the people of St. Martin and also get financial aid to have a financial supplement for the people. Of course, you can imagine that there are different schemes and possibilities. We have the social welfare. There are things that we have been discussing, but nothing is final as yet, because the most important thing is, again, actually getting the money.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Andrew Dick of Radio St. Martin, you have the floor.
Good morning. Good morning to all the ministers and, of course, everybody who is tuned in. Minister of Finance, quick question on the same stimulus package. It's the 25th of the month, meaning it's the 25th of March. At the end of the month, persons would have to pay their rent, and then homeowners will be knocking on doors asking for the rent. How do you talk to those persons who are renting to those who are not working right now? Because while government is working and it's coming and it's gonna soon, you're gonna come with a package, and soon time is going, and it's the 25th already. So any words to those homeowners?
Of course, I don't know the financial situation of also the landlords, but I would like to encourage landlords to have a sort of compassion for their tenants in this time. If it's possible, especially if you had a good tenant for 10 years, and they are facing some financial issues at the moment, maybe if you could do half of the rent for this month. Also, seeing especially the fact that utilities are being reduced, banks are deferring payments and so forth, that if in this meantime of 3 months that you could have a discussion with the tenant on their payments. But I also believe it's also up to the tenants, to drop our pride and go to have that conversation with our landlord. Don't just show up at the end of the month and say, hey, I don't have the money, but go from now. Have a conversation with your landlord and say, hey, this is my current situation, and I can contribute this while I wait on to see what the government has done. No, we have to open up, have a conversation, but don't just also make it a surprise for landlords either, because they are also going through their own situations that we might not know about. Further to that, again, we are going through a time that our forefathers went through. This is something that none of us have seen before. My mother hasn't seen before. Probably my grandparents hasn't seen before. It's not just us, it's every country in the world. Out of 195 countries, about now 190 already have the coronavirus. The world that we live in now is highly interconnected. So shutting down one economy affects multiple economies. And that's why in my introduction I said I have empathy for Italy and Spain, because I see how fast and rapidly the virus is spreading there, and the amount of deaths that they're having, and the amount of grandparents people are losing, because they have an elderly population. And every day as I see the data come in, it's getting more and more sad. So again, this is not a St. Martin struggle, it's a worldwide struggle. So I'm hoping that we all bounce back as fast as possible, because we depend highly on the US and the European markets also. We depend on the other islands also. So in this time, I believe we need to have community compassion in all areas.
Thank you, Minister Edion. As previously mentioned, we were scheduled to have 2 rounds, but based on time constraints, this is the final round of questions for the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Finance. Please stay tuned. We will be right back.
There's an outbreak of respiratory illness worldwide caused by the coronavirus COVID-19. Here are a few health tips to keep in mind to protect yourself and your family. Monitor your health for 14 days after traveling. If you develop a fever, cough, or have difficulty breathing, stay at home and notify your house doctor. Practice cough etiquette, hand hygiene, and avoid close contact with people who are coughing or sneezing. If you require urgent medical care, be sure to call ahead before going to see your doctor or to the emergency room. Tell your healthcare provider of your symptoms, travel history, or if you think you were exposed to a person with COVID-19. For additional information, call 914. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Government of St. Martin.
Hi, my name is Ayana Duran and I attend the St. Martin Academy High School. This month, we learn about single-use plastic and how it negatively affects the environment. Did you know that human beings consume about 250 grams of plastic per year? To learn more about single-use plastic and how you can do your part, let's all help reduce, reuse, and recycle so St. Martin can be plastic-free by 2023.
There's an outbreak of respiratory illness worldwide caused by the coronavirus COVID-19. Here are a few health tips to keep in mind to protect yourself and your family. Monitor your health for 14 days after traveling. If you develop a fever, cough, or have difficulty breathing, stay at home and notify your house doctor. Practice cough etiquette, hand hygiene, and avoid close contact with people who are coughing or sneezing. If you require urgent medical care, be sure to call ahead before going to see your doctor or to the emergency room. Tell your healthcare provider of your symptoms, travel history, or if you think you were exposed to a person with COVID-19. For additional information, call 914. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Government of St. Martin.
You ever hear Earthquake call and say, "Hello, Mr. Mara, it's me. Earthquake are coming in Tuesday around 10. No, sir. Earthquake does arrive unannounced, and when it comes, it'll shake all the sense and the sensibility out of we. Remain calm, stay inside, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Once the shaking start and you know it's an earthquake, make a quick move to a safe place. Don't run to the doorway or any exit, and the stairs that may be broke up or even full of people. Elevator, avoid that because you might get in and then poof, power gone, and you're stuck in a box without air. Take cover under a strong table or a bed, or crouch against an inside wall or in a corner and cover your face and your head with your arms. Remember, DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Glass windows and doors, outside walls in an earthquake, that is bad news. Take care of yourself. Most injuries during earthquakes happen when something drops and hit people entering or exiting a building. Last thing, don't bother run outside and ask, "You feel it? You feel it?" Remain calm, stay indoors until all the shaking stop, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on.
This public service announcement was brought to you by Sedema and the government of St. Martin. There's an outbreak of respiratory illness worldwide caused by the coronavirus COVID-19. Here are a few health tips to keep in mind to protect yourself and your family. Monitor your health for 14 days after traveling. If you develop a fever, cough, or have difficulty breathing, stay at home and notify your house doctor. Practice cough etiquette, hand hygiene, and avoid close contact with people who are coughing or sneezing. If you require urgent medical care, be sure to call ahead before going to see your doctor or to the emergency room. Tell your healthcare provider of your symptoms, travel history, or if you think you were exposed to a person with COVID-19. For additional information, call 914. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the government of St. Martin.
Welcome back to the live Council of Ministers press briefing. Thank you for joining us. At this time, I invite the Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, the Honorable Pamela Gordon-Carty, to address you.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to PM, to my colleague minister, and to members of the media, and all those listening through the different medias. We have a few statements and also advice that we as public health would like to give to the public. As Minister of Public Health and Social Development and Labor, in charge of matters related to the social welfare, being and labor aspect, I wish to inform the public that works are being executed to address the fallout caused by COVID-2019. I had some basically sit down with different organizations within the Ministry of ASA. I sat with the Council of Public Health, as I mentioned last week, and directives were given to the Council of Public Health into regards to giving some advice when it comes to what will be the impact in the different areas, and looking into the different scenarios and how we can mitigate for the negative impact to become less. So we had this conversation with Council of Public Health, and we did instruct them to provide us with a report in order for us to check and see the weaknesses within the market and see how we can start preparing to avoid the impact from being as huge as possible. I also sat with the SZV, and we sat and we were discussing different topics, different points when it comes to handling of the different cases that might present itself. And I also request from them a report in order for us to be prepared to see what will be the different steps and different approach that we need to take into account. It's not only SZV and Council of Public Health we sat with. It is an intention, of course, for us to sit as well with other organizations like the unions, and also with Chamber of Commerce. We will be conducting some how we call it, vergadering, some meeting, in order for us to hear from their end what might be the different aspects that we have to look into in order for us to be prepared and know what are the different actions that we might have to take when it comes to the after effect from the COVID-19. The pandemic is global, is a global crisis, and St. Martin is not exempted from it. The goal of the ministry, of course, is to ensure that we take a balanced approach to resolve problems in the best interest of all. When we talk about the best interest of all, we have to take into account that we will have to look at it from different angles. We will be looking at it from the angle of the employers, the angle from the employees, the vulnerable ones, the pensioners. So there are different aspects and different angles that we have to look at, and also take into account the different weaknesses. What are the strengths in order for us to take different decisions that will benefit? Of course, we will have to take into account that certain things, we have to try to balance it in a way that the impact is not as drastic as possible. We cannot take everything into account, but that's why we need to stay focused at the end result. The end result at this moment is basically try to be one step in advance. Whilst this thing is going on, the COVID-19 is basically taking a lot of businesses in a different direction that they had planned. We also have to take into account that the same COVID-19 is taking employees in a different direction that they had planned. So they have to make a lot of changes within their household. They have to make changes when it comes to their children, because at the end of the day, some of them have to stay home. They have to run turns. So there are different things that we have to take into account in order for us to, when the reports are presented, to put them together and see how we can best balance out that the different effects is not going to be long-lasting. Okay, so we are looking into that within the different ministries, and I had a sit-down last week, Monday, and also this week again, with my department heads, and they have been instructed to look into the different categories, the different vulnerable groups, make up lists. Let's see what are the impacts, what are the different rules and regulations that are there, how does it affect. EOC is basically making decisions, but we have to see how it is going to impact after those decisions are taken. What is it that Ministry of VSA will have to do in order to contribute for the impact to be less? So we are looking into different things. I'm constantly having different discussions with the department head so we can be on top of things and know what direction we want it to go. I have some statements that I would like to also inform the public. When it comes to labor market, it's our fair expectation that employers will act in accordance with the existing legislation, and that at all times decisions are taken that are as a result of discussions and mutual agreements between parties. We have already a lot of employers, businesses that has approached the labor department. Some of them didn't. We are hearing through their employees that certain decisions are taken without consulting the employees. There are no discussions being held in between the two parties and things like that. We want to encourage and inform the employers. There are rules and regulations on the country, and yes, we are facing a difficult situation. It will have negative financial impact on your business, but at the end of the day, we still have to abide to the rules. So let's not use this opportunity to make decisions and get rid of maybe employees that we didn't want it in our organizations, or different other steps that we are seeing that are being taken right about now. We are informing the employers that basically if an employee come with a complaint, we will deal with it according to the rules and legislation of the country, St. Martin itself. And that's what we are also looking into to see, seeing the different aspects, the different scenarios that are being presented. What are if the rules that are there, the regulations and the legislations that are there, if those covering all the different gaps that normally employers will use in order for them to get rid of employees. So we are looking into that as well. But of course, we are looking at it from a different angle as well when it comes to the employers, because at the end of the day, you have to keep the balance. Employer are the ones who are employing the employees. So we have to take into account the financial situation of the employer, of course. Different sectors, the COVID-19 will have a different type of result and effect when it comes to the financial. So we have to take those things into account. It's just not a decision that can be taken like straightforward across the board. Every situation is different. The COVID-19 will affect the different segments and sectors in the market differently, and therefore decisions will be taken using the legislation based on each scenario that presents itself. But at the end of the day, it has to remain that employers will follow the rules and regulations and the legislation existing from the country itself. The second thing is, if a business is unionized, we also expect business owners to discuss with their respective union members and their leadership. It is important for us to notice that in a situation like this, that we have to remain focused and not get distracted. The rules are there, the legislation is there, we have to continue abiding by them. Not because COVID-19 presented itself, which is almost like people will use the scenario as a hurricane, that a lot of things went south, everybody started doing their own stuff, and then the aftermath was that Ministry of VESA was confronted with a lot of things that we had to deal with. So in this case of COVID-19, we want to say that let's stay focused, do the proper things, step by step, take steps. Everybody have to stay, let not emotions take over. Let's use facts. Use facts in order for you to take and make the proper decision. So if you know that the employees are unionized, the first thing that you have to do is take and make contact with the unions in order for that communication to go in a way that everybody is on the same line. You might not be in agreement with everything, but at the end of the day, it is ethical for you to call in the union in order for you to hear the side from the employee, and then in a more balanced way, make a decision on what is going to happen. Of course, as a business, you have your future plans already in place, but things like this, sometimes you do not have it always in control. But at the end of the day, you have to deal with it. And the proper way to deal with it is when having all parties involved, that everybody can put and give their point of view in order to reach to a balanced decision. As Minister of Labor as well, I will take the lead to initiate discussions with the tripartite committee and the unions to assess the overall impact of the COVID-19. Hereby, we want to identify the gaps in our labor laws to put in place a fast track to close those gaps. As I mentioned before, that is the intention. And of course, we have to learn from our mistakes. We have been doing that already. Before the COVID-19, we have been looking into the different labor laws and see where are the gaps, where are the different holes, that different angles or different, whether it's the employer, whether it's the lawyer is using when cases are presented in order to get the result that they want. What we are looking at right now is the different rules that people will be applying when it comes to these type of things. And I'm also looking at how will they use it to the benefit and if it's fair or not. So we are balancing those type of things when it comes to that, because we already know that a lot of employers will be using the opportunity to use these type of laws. So we are trying to be one step ahead to see, okay, this law has been used in the past for these type of cases, and they won the case because of this and this and this. How can we best try to make those holes within that legislation? We're trying to damp it, but still taking into account the effect on both sides. So that's being done right about now. Statement of employment permit section. In reviewing the decision to all the permits, when we look at how different things are happening in the society and things like that, it is important that we can guarantee the continuity, of course, of the different sectors that are still open and are still providing their services and things like that. When I think about providing the services, I focus more on the essential businesses, like the hospital, the ambulance, and those are the type of organizations, especially the hospital. We always are in need of specialized expertise and personnel. So that space have to still remain open, and different other things that we have to take into account. So in discussions with the department head, we decided that renewals will still be possible, but only for those categories and segments in the market that are required on a high scale that we know that are not available on the market right about now. First applications is a no-no at this moment, only when it comes to, like I said, experts and especially on the medical field. We are focusing on that. So because we already know the impact is going to be that a lot of employees will be laid off, business will be closing. So we are waiting to see what will be the magnitude of the impact in order for us to decide how it's going to move forward when it comes to work permit, because of course we already had an unemployment rate that is high. Now it will most likely increase. So we are not going to just open the work permit, because of course that is counterproductive, and of course it's against what we was trying to achieve in the beginning. So we will be monitoring that and pay key attention when it comes to the unemployment rate that will increase, and of course businesses that will close in. So we have to balance off and see what's going to happen with that work permit session when it comes to that. Like I said, the first time request will only be accepted and handled for professions in the area of public health. When it comes to the statements of social services, we have the following that we want to inform: that all emergency medical cases, those will be handled according to our protocols, which also function remotely, of course, because we are promoting working from home. So our ministry, just like all the other ministries, has tried to adapt and adjust that some of our personnel works from home so that the continuity of the ministry can continue, and also providing the services to the different groups that we have contact with. Financial aid has been completed and is payable at the bank for March 2020. A contingency plan is in place in the event the isolation period is extended past the 2 weeks period. Okay. The medical card, like we mentioned last week, also the SVB card on the social services, it has been extended until April 30th, those that had the deadline of the 31st of March 2020. Okay. Then I also want to inform in times like these that everybody is focusing on the different other aspects. I also want to inform that we are in communication with the churches, and it's important that prayers go out through the media, because that aspect, that spiritual aspect, of course, is important when it comes to our elderly and the public as a whole. We need to direct our prayers as well and maintain that spiritualism up in the air in order for hope to continue reigning inside of our population. So the social services has been in touch and will continue being in touch with the NGs and with the churches, with the shelters, in order for us at all time to not lose that contact, so we know at all times what is going on and what decisions needs to be fast-tracked or changed along the way based on their experiences and things like that. We are getting calls about food packages, and I think there is a misunderstanding regarding that, but I think PM, as chair of the EOC, will elucidate on that. What we can inform basically that through the public, certain decisions are being made by EOC, and it is Ministry of VSA in collaboration with other ministries, depending on what area it's touched, that we will execute the decisions that are being made in EOC. So for further instructions, we will wait. We will wait on EOC instructions for that to be taken care of. So just to recap, the Council of Public Health has been instructed to provide us with an advice, with a report. SZV, SMMC is also on board and has taken some measures when it comes to the different preventative measures. We will be looking at psychosocial impact as well in the community. So we have also community service working on that. We are promoting more online services when it comes to churches in order to maintain that physical and the spiritual aspect as well ongoing. We have the social distancing that we want to also inform the public that the inspectors will be looking keen attention on. And we got some notifications from the inspectorate that we would like to provide the public with. Our inspectors has a hands-on approach to check manual tasks that are being conducted within the supermarket and the restaurants. Points of aspect that we would like to bring to our attention is entrance and flow of persons that the inspectorate will be looking at. Staff interaction with customer, staff to staff interaction. The cashier area that we noticed by some of the supermarkets that are still not adhering to the instructions of 1.5 meter. Some of them, I myself went into the supermarket and noted that they are applying those, but others are still not applying. I was informed yesterday that they went Sunny Food supermarket and it had agglomeration of people for buying bread. We want to inform the supermarkets, please adhere to the EOC instructions of social distancing. Personal hygiene, of course, have to be taken into account. More washing of hands, the sneezing and the coughing instructions. We will be looking also at transportation and staff and fresh produce when it comes to people handling the fruits and the vegetables. We would like to inform the public, when you pick up a fruit or a vegetable, pick it up and put it in your cart. Don't be trying and filling up all of the fruits and the vegetables and leaving them for somebody else, because that's also another way of contamination. So let's take that into account as well. And the shopping carts, we need to also take into account that every 30 minutes it has to be sanitized. That's it for me for Ministry of VSA. I will await further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gordon Carty, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Sylveria Jacobs, to address you.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning. Good morning to my Council of Ministers, those who were here in the first session, those who are here now. Good morning to the moderator for today, all of the staff of DCOM, as well as the media present, and of course, a blessed good morning to all following this broadcast today, this very special broadcast. Firstly, let me extend my condolences to His Excellency Governor Holliday and Mrs. Holliday, Mrs. Jacqueline Holliday, and the sons of the deceased, siblings and extended family, loved ones, as they lay the body of their brother, husband, father, loved one, former police chief Derek Holliday, to rest today in what is a very private family ceremony. The general public is asked not to visit, as they would also like to have uphold the social distancing guidelines, and as such, it is already a very taxing time. Much strength goes out, and Godspeed as you handle such difficult business in these trying times. I would also like to extend condolences to all those families who are actually going through the mourning period or suffering a loss at this time. With social distancing, it is our norm as a culture to hug, embrace, comfort each other, and in this time, it is very, very difficult to do so outside of your own family circle. I would like to still, even though we have not put the strictest of regulations in place for such funerals and burials, that when they do take place, that the directors, the churches, as well as the family, take all this into consideration in planning the ceremonies as well as the burials. The regulations that have been in place or are in place pertaining to social distancing has been sent to churches, and many I have seen have reacted to either suspend church services or to ensure that there are only maybe 4 or 5 persons per pew, ensuring that based on the size of the pews, that there is proper distance of 1.5 to 2 meters. So I thank all those churches that have been compliant in this, and especially commend those who continue to serve their flock via online services. I think seeing that many were already going live, that this is the way to go. The pastor as well as other key persons can be in the church, and this can be filmed live so that their members, but as well as others within the community, can enjoy the peace that comes from worshiping. At the burial sites, we encourage all to maintain at least a 2-meter distance from those persons who are working at the gravesite. They have much important work to do, and family members are advised to stay back once the work has commenced, at least 2 meters from the site. On March 24th, 2020, as Prime Minister and Chair of the EOC, I held meetings with all the emergency support function coordinators, known as ESFs, of the EOC. This is after having first a video conference with the Ministry of Health, including Minister Knops, BZK was present, as well as all 6 islands/countries within the Dutch Caribbean. This was done via a video conference, and the agenda of said meeting was updating on the situations per country, going through the scenarios regarding the developments, as well as the extra measures that were being taken per country and island, referring to the best islands, continued cooperation on care, especially for acute patients already who were traveling back and forth within the island. St. Martin continues to cooperate with Saba and St. Eustatius, as I've mentioned before, and that's why flights will continue to facilitate medical emergencies and regular visits for doctor, etc., under special conditions, of course. And if, I believe, most of the acute patients of the Saba and Statia were already transported to Bonaire. We also talked about our cooperation on dealing with COVID-19 patients. This will be, of course, only go into effect if necessary when the capacity of one or the other islands or countries has been reached. As you know, Saba and Statia are even smaller than we are and have no capacity to be able to deal with persons that would need to be on a ventilator. Acute care outside of the kingdom was also discussed, and as I had mentioned last week, you know, St. Martin no longer has the opportunity to send patients outside the kingdom, so therefore it is either Curacao or we will have to deal with the situation ourselves. As a matter of fact, on Sunday, a group of our patients that were stationed in Colombia returned and are currently being monitored by CPS. So they form part of the group in the 322 that I mentioned in yesterday's update. There is also a declaration of cooperation that is being established for all the 4 countries, which include, of course, how Sabre Station and Bonaire will be impacted and assisted. And this declaration is in principle agreed upon, and in our next meeting will be signed off on. We continue to look to, as Minister of Finance already mentioned, the assistance from our kingdom partners, both Curacao, Aruba, if necessary, for medical evacuations, and for assistance in terms of technical assistance. And of course, we've already requested the bastant in the form of the military to be on the island should any type of unrest take place, or should any type of enforcement of border closures be necessary, as well as upholding any type of state of emergency should that be necessary within the future. Proper preparation prevents serious consequences, and if we do not have that type of assistance on island in advance of a breakout, we would then be in, let's just say, very hot water. In our EOC meeting that followed up that video conference, we therefore dealt with the status of affairs within the ESFs, how far they are in their execution. Especially important is to note the key functions of ESFs 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10 as core ESFs dealing on a daily basis with our situation, and not forgetting, of course, communications, which is being handled by DCOM, ESF 8. As a result of the social distancing decree, as well as ensuring that as many people as possible can stay at home, the EOC meetings will continue as of the next one via a digital platform utilizing Microsoft Teams, which is what government is using at the moment to ensure that government business can continue, while members of our workforce, our civil servants, many are now connected via Teams, and there are therefore ways that we can continue to serve the public. As has been already put forth, those who have to come to the building for service are asked to first make a phone call, get an appointment, and we will move forward from there. Civil registry has been granted also a call number, a 3-digit number, 711. As you know, 914 is already the number to use for CPS, for reporting in if you have traveled abroad within the past 3 weeks, if you are feeling symptoms, or if you know of someone who has either of the above mentioned, report to CPS so that they can follow up at 914. If you are ill, however, and it is after hours, it is best to call ahead at your doctor or emergency room in order to know what you should do before going to your doctor or to the hospital. During our EOC meeting, business closures and social distancing was further discussed. It was further decided to ensure that all businesses are closed on Sundays with the exception of pharmacies and gas stations. However, and that the mandatory 6 p.m. closures will be strictly enforced. Further clarification will be given by the pharmacies. As you know, on Sundays, there's already a special schedule. We are not expecting that full schedule will be upheld. So the pharmacies will come forth with a proposal before Sunday to ensure that the general public knows exactly which pharmacies will be open on Sunday. ESF 10, which handles everything related to business and tourism, has prepared a letter to be signed off by my person as chair of EOC, emphasizing the limitation of persons, which is now of a maximum of 20, depending on the size of the establishment inside of the establishment. The number of persons and spacing, however, is again, as I mentioned, dependent on the size. Generally, more distancing in stores needs to be enforced, as was mentioned by the Minister of VSA, perhaps ensuring that businesses not only inform customers but put markers that are clearly positioned will assist in doing this in all the floors and in the aisles, as well as wherever they may need to line up, especially outside of the establishment as well. Enforceability is essential. What is allowed should be clear to all stakeholders, including the clients as well as the business people. And I would like to request that all business people, all business owners who are privileged to be open at this time would adhere to these guidelines or face the serious possibility of fines or closure for the rest of this period. ESF 10 has already prepared guidelines for this social distancing, and this has been distributed, especially for churches also, as I mentioned before, who we have noted in some cases have not been adhering. At least 1 or 2 churches we are noticing, and the police has noticed, and this will be followed up on as well. We do not want to have to shut down your church, but if you fail to adhere, then of course that will be the necessary consequence of not adhering. 1.5 to 2 meters between your worshipers and other persons within the church who are serving, and if that cannot be adhered to, fines as well as closure will be a direct result. The minister already mentioned about the care packages. I would just like to elucidate that this would only be able to be distributed, as you know, we already as government have a liquidity situation. We do not want people to go into a panic. We have possibilities to get a confirmation by the end of this week, but that has not been confirmed yet as to what the dissemination of funds will be for the Kingdom Islands. We've gotten an agreement that there will be funding received. However, the amount and the time has not been yet determined. Of course, as Prime Minister, I continue to reiterate to our Kingdom partners that our situation is not the same as Aruba nor Curacao. Their capacity is much larger. Their financial situation is not our financial situation. We have still been waiting on 2019 liquidity support, and therefore do not have the necessary 2-month buffer that government is required to minimally have to be able to sustain its own operations. So therefore, we are awaiting the responses. So far, though, the plans and preparations continue. For babies and toddlers is the first group. The second group is ages 3 to 62 and seniors 62 plus. These care packages would entail essential items that individuals and or families could use during the challenging times and would be for 1 month period. ESF 7 has also confirmed that the churches and the NGOs, such as Red Cross and community councils, are willing to assist with the packaging and the distribution of these care packages once they have been prepared. Dates will be announced again once we have secured the funding and purchased as well as packaged these food baskets. Minister of Finance already discussed also the economic stimulus plan, so I won't go into that. I will go then to the Dutch military assistance and hospital ship. We as EOC are still awaiting the response from the Netherlands Ministry of Defense regarding our request for military assistance. As I mentioned earlier, we have also, during that video conference, requested that a vessel be sent that would be able to function as a floating hospital, as especially Saba and St. Eustatius does not have that option, and our options are limited. While we have approved funding to be able to re-outfit the pavilions at the medical center to be able to house at least 10 other patients, we do not want to wait until it is required to have more capacity to serve Saba, Statia, as well as St. Martin. The Minister of Justice has already updated on actions being taken by the Ministry of Justice, and the Chief of Police as a ESF coordinator continues to reassure that the people of St. Martin are being quite compliant in living up to the business closures as well as not gathering in public. One or two calls have been made, though, to break up some small gatherings within the more tight-knit communities, and I therefore use this opportunity to reinforce to all that we do not want to have to move to any type of aggression to be able to control. We are all civilized human beings, and I expect you to adhere to the regulations that have been laid down. We know that it is a difficult time, and some of us might be having cabin fever. Walk around your yard. If you must walk in the neighborhood, do so at the approved distance from other persons. And I know that dominoes is a cultural pastime that we love. However, think about it. You do not know the safety and sanitary conditions of the persons you are playing with. You do not know where their hands have been. Every domino they touch, you will touch. So even if you are a good distance away from each other, which is not on a domino table, 1.5 to 2 meters, this will not be allowed. So unless you are in your home playing with persons whom you are quarantined with, domino playing in public is for now not allowed. COVID-19 testing. Currently, a private laboratory on the Dutch side is being vetted as a local testing agent for the COVID-19 virus. As I mentioned before, SLS, as well as this other laboratory, is already able to carry out tests for 19 other type of viral, let's say, cold, like influenza-like viruses. So this is the route that CPS is going. Once someone shows symptoms, first we test for the spectrum of 19 that we have, and then if it comes out negative for any of those, then is when the test for COVID-19 is done. COVID-19 tests continue to go through Institut Pasteur in Guadeloupe, and then vetted via RIVM in the Netherlands. Those flights continue. They are cargo flights via FedEx, and so there is no disturbance of that service. Once this new testing kit, which the other lab has received, is vetted, this will take about a week. So hopefully by next week, Wednesday, we will be able to do COVID testing right here on St. Martin. This is a great asset to the country with respect to getting results right away in determined confirmed cases. And the World Health Organization has been pushing for countries to test, and St. Martin will definitely be complying with that in the next week if all goes well with the vetting process. I would like to also reiterate on French-Dutch cooperation. Yesterday, there was a bit of a misunderstanding. I believe there was an article in the newspaper about flights continuing between the French islands in the Caribbean, which sent the population into an uproar. Understandably so, because it sent me into an uproar as well, and I immediately sought to get clarification from this, because the day before we'd had very, let's say, tense in the beginning, but at the end, amicable meetings once we as St. Martin and Saint Martin officials were able to understand what we were dealing with. Many times when dealing with our French counterparts, they are taking their orders directly from France, or a general within Guadeloupe has the say. And we understand that the situation in France and Guadeloupe is totally different to the situation on the French side and St. Bart's at this time. So the agreements still stand as we have indicated on Monday. And so last night and this morning, the prefet assured that she would send out a correction. The flights that have been are continuing at L'Espérance in Grand Case are just like the ones on our side, solely to take passengers out or to bring persons who from St. Martin usually go to Guadeloupe for medical purposes such as chemotherapy, etc. So that it will be allowed for medical and emergencies only, and for if a family member needs to travel with them. And the flights will be from Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Also for technical assistance, should the government of the French side request such. So similarly to what we are doing with Sabre and St. Eustatius is being done on the French side with their passengers who need to go for medical and emergencies, technical support. Just while waiting to come here to the podium, I was updated by CPS head, Mrs. Ava Lista de Weaver, that the number of, she could not confirm that any of the newly quarantined or isolated persons had any changes. But as I'd mentioned, 8 tests had been sent on to Pasteur and 1 did come back positive. So now our numbers are at 3 as of today. This new case, or case number 3, has also returned from New York City and has been in self-isolation as requested from the onset. So we do not suspect that there will be any social spread of it via these 3 suspects or these 3 cases. And I would like to reiterate, if you have traveled within the past 3 weeks and have not yet called CPS, I urge you to do so. I will not be alarmed if the numbers go higher. It would just mean that we have a better grip on who is out there, who has traveled, and can follow up with you. Do not be afraid to report this. It is not leprosy. All you have to do is stay at home. It is very, very irresponsible to be walking about in public if you know for a fact you have traveled to a country where this is rampant. And now we see the numbers coming out of Italy, out of France, out of Spain, and even the Netherlands daily is growing by leaps and bounds. 800 plus cases in 1 day in the Netherlands. If that happens on St. Martin, it would be catastrophic. I am asking you people, I'm not trying to be a general like the lady from Suriname, but trust me, if we have to do a total lockdown in order to have compliance by our public, we will. We would prefer not to. We would like to be able to continue to offer the essential services that you can go to the bank, you can go to the post office, you can even come to the government building on appointment only. But please, if you have traveled or if you are in the home with someone who has traveled, stay home. Arrange for deliveries. I have asked others, supermarkets, essential services, and even those that are closed down, offer delivery services so that people are not feeling obligated to come out. Then there is one person, they're delivering, you drop it on your doorstep, you pick it up, there is no contact. Make your orders online. Businesses, get that opportunity going to do e-business with your clients here on St. Martin. It's not just for Amazon. Right now, it is the best way to go for the people of St. Martin, for safety and security of our population. I will continue to reiterate that patient 31, I hope we never get there in terms of confirmed cases, but patient number 4 could be our fatal case number 31. There's a video circulating that was done in the Netherlands. A South Korean patient went to church, went to funeral services, went all over the place in the space of 2-3 days. And as a direct result of that person's not staying home, over thousands of persons were directly or indirectly affected because it's a domino effect. It is a serious situation. There is no need to panic. But there is a need for us to be conscious of our own individual behavior. Do not get offended if someone in the line asks you to, nami dos, give me 2 meters, give me 1.5 meters. That person is trying to protect themselves, but is in essence also protecting you. You don't know what that person may have. One more thing I need to update on, and I had it written at the back here. Seafaring vessels, the maritime regulation that I had issued earlier in the week is being disrespected. I have been getting reports that yachts and certain boats which have been allowed to come into the lagoon to bunker and to provision were actually having persons come off. So therefore, you did it, it's over. No other yachts and boats will be allowed to go into the lagoon to bunker or provision. The only boats that will be able to do so will be at the harbor where we have customs, where we have immigration, and where we can easily enforce who comes off and who does not. So far that has been going very well, and so that will be able to continue, especially for large ships. Smaller ships, if you are already in the lagoon, you may stay, but know that if you leave, don't come back. Not until we have lifted our restrictions. You will not be allowed to return. I would like to commend and thank our medical frontliners, our medical professionals, our pharmacists, our EOC 6 persons, CPS, the Department of Health, who are working around the clock. It is not just Prime Minister who is working hard. It is each and every single one of the ESF coordinators. It is each and every single one of their teams. It is each and every single medical health professional that has dedicated their lives to saving others. And if we infect them, then we run the risk of having serious problems in being able to take care of who is ill. And we can say, yes, we are in a kingdom and we have the right to assistance from the Netherlands, but again, that is at the decision-making of those in the Netherlands. I would like to thank you for the sacrifices you're making. We continue to work with you. We continue to protect you. Personal protective equipment has arrived on the island specifically for our frontliners in the medical sector, and I wish you all much speed as we continue to work together. It is not just up to me. People of St. Martin, it is up to each and every single one of you to protect yourself, your families, and this community. We are too small to be able to have a patient 31, a patient 4, 5, 6, or 7 who may decide, I ain't feeling sick, man, I going on the road. Whether you feel sick or not, whether you have any symptoms or not, if you have traveled, stay home. God bless the people of St. Martin. God bless all of us as we work together to fight COVID-19.
Thank you, Prime Minister Silveira Jacobs, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing. Given our time constraint, once again, we will have one round of questions. Stephen Cyrilin of PJD2, you have the floor.
Ms. Roach. Thank you. Prime Minister, good morning, Minister of VSA. My question is split between the Minister of VSA and the Minister of Finance, who is still here with us. Earlier on, Minister, you spoke of the many civil servants who are currently home working, or being at home doing their daily duties. Can you give us an idea, if you may, as to exactly how many civil servants are currently working from home and how are their work being monitored or supervised?
Thank you for your question. The exact amount I can't say, but I could say that we have for the education ministry, I believe, is about close to 90% of the civil servants or more. And finance is a little less. But what we are doing in finance is doing rotations. So in certain ministries where, certain departments where we can't close them down totally, we are practicing social distancing and having a morning shift and an afternoon shift, for example. So in every department, we are doing different schemes to minimize the amount of people that come to work and still practicing social distancing. There's another department, for example, they are doing rotations based on days. So 4 people on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then the next week they do Tuesdays and Thursdays, and under some.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Minister Gordon Cardi.
Thank you for the question. From Ministry of VSA, I can say that basically we have more or less 81% from our staff that is working from home. We have tried to balance it off based on a rotation basic, of course, and try to see which one of our departments we have to maintain open because, of course, the Ministry of VSA is important for us to stay with that communication with the community. So we couldn't do like a total or a higher percentage of our personnel staying home because we still want to maintain that the community is in touch with us in order for us to contribute to maintaining the community and the population in a stable, in peace. So we have our social workers that will continue going on the road, but we are, of course, also looking into how we're going to execute that, how we, which are the different areas that we're going to be going into. So those are the different things that we are looking into in order for us to continue giving our contribution when it comes to the different rules and regulations that has been stipulated by EOC, and still maintain that contact with the public. And when it comes to basically how we are monitoring this, we are monitoring this through, we have a system that is called Teams, and based on that, we can see who is active on the network, who is basically logged in and doing activities. So based on the activity law, we are monitoring how our staff is maintaining that they are really actually working. Because of course, as a human factor is that if there is no control, they will just do what they want. But we have our ways how we control the activities that they are well executed. Yes,
Thank you, Minister Gordon Carty. Prime Minister Severa Jacobs.
Yes, thank you, Relaika. As General Affairs Minister, civil servants fall within us. The Secretary General is busy compiling from all ministries, so the information is still forthcoming from some. As soon as we have it all, we'll be able to give you a total in terms of how many, but we're also facilitating in terms of inventorizing how many are willing to work from home but are unable to due to whether it's lack of communication devices, etc. So we cannot mandate everyone to be at home. I could say the building is mostly a ghost town, so only essential services are there on a shorter term, so only in the mornings that you can come for appointments, etc. And throughout the building, they are exercising within the space the necessary social distancing, as my both colleague ministers have mentioned, and we should be able to determine whether more mobile devices such as laptops are needed to be able to allow it. So our system is set up that it can be done, but not everyone has been able to do so as yet. So we're awaiting those final numbers to make sure that we can be compliant, to ensure that work can be done at home. Monitoring is more of the actions that need to be done, the products, than in terms of time spent working. So at the end of the week, management has to ascertain with those who are working from home whether tasks have been completed or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Dimitri Whitfield of the Daily Herald. My apologies. You have the floor.
Hi, good morning. My final question is to the Prime Minister, and it's regarding the third confirmed case of COVID-19 in St. Martin. When did the person in case number 3 return from New York City? Can you also please give an indication of the ages and genders of the 3 cases? And I probably missed this if you did say this in your opening remarks, but when are the results from the other 8 cases expected?
Thank you, Dimitri. As I said, I literally just got the message before going to the podium, so I didn't get all the details. I just know I want to be able to update as, we're going to press. So the message from the epidemiologist stated that the one more case came back confirmed. All 8 cases were pending, and we usually get them back at the same time. So I'm assuming that the other 7 are negative, and I will get the direct update in terms of all I got was that it was also another person returning from New York. As you know, we had several students studying in New York, and I'm assuming again that it's a student, but I cannot say for certain. What I can say is returned and followed the directions of government immediately, self-isolated, so has not been in contact with the general public. I believe they tried to visit the doctor, but that was not allowed. So they only stayed at home, they have minimal symptoms, and he is being monitored by CPS. It is a male, once again. So we have 3 cases, all males, local residents who have returned home. So far, if we do what we have to do, I want to take this opportunity, Relaika, if these persons can do it, you can do it. You will have your symptoms. We are noticing around the world, most of the deaths are with elderly, so stay away from the St. Martin home. Stay away from your loved one for their safety and protection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. As indicated, there are no further questions from the media. The floor is now closed. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. As we have been experiencing some technical difficulties with our stream, we encourage all viewers to tune in at 7 p.m. on St. Martin Cable TV and via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 to catch this broadcast once more. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach and wishing you a pleasant day further.